Okay, so today we're going to go over how to build, tag, and schedule curtain walls. So the first thing we got to do is build a curtain wall. Alright, so I'm going to slice this wall open, pull it apart a little bit, and create a curtain wall. So the wall command is where the curtain walls are buried. So I just hit WA for wall. You can see here it's got all the basic walls listed, so they could be generic walls, it could be a CMU wall, whatever. They're all listed in this category. And then you've got your curtain walls and then stacked walls. So we're going to make a curtain wall, and we're going to draw it just here to here. Pretty easy. And escape out, and if we click on this, it's going to kind of give us these extents of the curtain wall. We told it that we wanted to start at the first floor and go up to the second floor, which is 10 feet above. So the best place to add more information to the curtain wall is going to be in an elevation view. So I'll click into here. There we go. Oh, come here. There we go. So here's this elevation view, and here's this curtain wall. So I'm going to make a curtain grid. And so if you go to this architecture tab, you can see here we've got curtain systems, curtain grids, curtain mullions. So mullions are going to get applied to curtain grids, and then curtain panels are going to infill between the mullions. So really the curtain grid is where everything starts. So to create this curtain grid, we're going to create a couple of these, and you got to kind of hover over the edge in order to tell Revit which direction you want the curtain grid to go, be it horizontal or vertical. We can make a couple more. If I hover out here, you can see it's just going to go away. Escape out of that command and go into the mullion command, and I'm just going to apply the mullions to these curtain grids. There's a couple really good tutorials out there online about sort of how to modify this and change the mullion types, the curtain panel types, and so on. I will link to that in our knowledge base so you can get a hold of all that stuff. But for now, this looks okay, right? So this is what it looks like in elevation. And if we go back to the architectural plan, that's what it looks like there. So in general, you can see we're starting to develop a whole series of plan views. And these working plans are going to be really valuable as we get more and more into developing our standards. In particular, you'll notice, let me just delete that out of here so we can make a new version of it. You'll notice these sort of pink elevation tags, right? And so these elevation tags are the elevation type windows and curtain walls. And if we go to architectural, they're just gone, right? So those tags don't exist here. And so what's going on here is that we actually have a filter which is telling this type of elevation tag to become pink in the working plans and then to disappear altogether in the architectural plans. And those filters are applied to the view templates. So plan working makes them pink, plan architectural turns them off, plan finish also turns them off. We really just want to see these elevations in the working plans because what they're going to be is really we're going to show this elevation and we're going to put it on our A240 sheet, our window schedule and elevations sheet, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So the first thing before we start kind of annotating this and scheduling it is just to tag it and give it kind of a number. So to do that, we're going to use the tag command, TG for tag by category. And you can see here, because this is a wall, it wants to tag this as a wall type. And so if we tag it, it's going to be kind of confused, right? It wants this to be a wall. It's not really a wall. So what we did to work around that is to go in here and create another wall tag called curtain wall tag. And that wall tag looks suspiciously like the window tag, which is generally how we tag things, right? We tag curtain walls pretty much like windows. So what we're going to do is, in general, we'd like the standard to be A through Z is going to be standard punched opening windows, and then double A through double Z and so on is going to be curtain walls. So so first off, we already have an AA here, we have a BB here, and these are both curtain walls. So let's make this one CC. Capital. Okay. So that's looking pretty good. Now, the important thing to note here is that this is a wall, and so this is a curtain wall type. This is a curtain wall type. This is a curtain wall type. These are all the same type, but they have different marks. Whereas this wall is a generic wall 5-inch. This wall is a generic 5-inch. If I tag this wall and give it a leader, this gets a 1, this gets a 1. These are tagged as A's and B's and C's. So what's going on there is that this tag, this curtain wall tag, is looking for a mark as opposed to a type mark. And so behind the scenes, if we click on this, the mark is AA, right? And so what's happening there is that's an instance parameter for this object. And most things have marks and type marks. So whereas for this wall here, mark is empty, but then if we go in to edit the type of it and we scroll down to the type mark, we can see here the type mark is 1. And so this tag is scheduling out type mark, and this tag is scheduling out mark, instance mark. So keep that in mind, because that's going to be an important difference. Windows, for instance, schedule out very similar to walls, right? They're scheduling the type mark. So if I grab this and I look here, mark is just sort of a random number that Revit assigns it. We're not really using that in any meaningful way. What we're really worried about is right here where it says type mark, down here in the type parameters for this type of window. So that's kind of how to use these objects. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we want to create one of these elevations so that we can kind of look at this and start to detail it. So we can do it from the View tab and do View Elevation. In this case, because we already have this in here, I can just do CS as the hotkey for Create Similar. Dump it in here. You can see it already has the window elevation type, and it created it right here. If I were to grab this and switch it over to an architectural type, it would move it up to architectural and it would turn it black. We don't want to do that, so let's put it back here. All right, so what we have here is let's just kind of trim this up a little bit. We actually don't really have to do this step, and I'll show you why in just a second, but it's kind of nice to just trim it up a little. And let's go into this view and take a look at it. So I trimmed the view down, so let's open that up. And first thing we want to do is just get rid of all this extraneous junk, right? These extra walls that are floating around. There might be a window over here, a door. So the easiest way to get rid of all this crap is to apply a view template that we've pre-made called Elevation Curtain Walls. And let's say OK. And so what that's doing is it's hiding everything except for curtain walls. Now if you had a curtain wall right up against here, you'd have to hide it in your view, or you'd have to trim your view back or something. But generally, you know, this view template's going to take care of kind of making this look the way you want it to look on your window schedule and elevations sheet. And so the important thing to note is this curtain wall type and any subsequent curtain walls you make or import need to have this one tricky parameter attached, which is type comments should equal CW. And so the filter that is making all this possible, as well as the filter that is telling the schedule, which we'll get into in a little bit, what to look for as far as whether it's a wall or a curtain wall, is all happening right here. This type comments equals CW is very important. So make sure that that's there. If you don't see this when you apply this view template, being this view template here, that's probably what's doing it. So what we can do is we can tag this curtain wall, and it's going to be the same thing we did before, right? It wants to tag this as a wall, so we'll have to escape out, we'll have to grab this, switch it over to a curtain wall, maybe turn off the leader. It's looking pretty good. And then we can kind of dimension it. So you can see here it's going to want a dimension by default to the curtain grid. If you'd like, you can tab over to the edge of the mullion, go to the curtain grid, and so it's going to give you kind of these dots to say, hey, this is a center line, this is whatever. It's looking pretty good. And the nice thing is that because this is a view looking at this curtain wall, which is in our plan somewhere, if I, for instance, wanted to just, out here, I want a dimension across here, and I want to make all these equal, it will change this in the project itself, right? And so we're going to ultimately put this on a sheet. So let's do that now. So the first thing we want to do, Let's rename this and call it curtain wall type CC. Now, unfortunately, the only, oops, let me just rename that. Didn't filter quite right. Type CC. Now, a bit of a strange thing happens here, which is that the tag that's associated with this, this mark right here, CC, and the name of the view that is looking at this window don't necessarily link up. And so what I mean by that is, let's say I wanted to change this curtain wall tag to XX. I can do that in a lot of places. I could do it in the schedule. I could do it here on this tag. I could do it by selecting it and doing it here on the mark. But either way, what ends up happening is I have a window named XX and a view named CC. And so what we want to just make sure we do is that if we're in this view and we say it says XX here, we just want to check the view name and make sure it matches. So that's going to really help, right? So it's going to say XX here, here, and here. And that's going to kind of link all the way through. So once we've done all that, let's say we want to switch this back to CC for now. Let's do CC. And then let's change this to CC. Oops. That's looking pretty good. Let's go over here and let's dump this view onto our page. So that looks like pretty much like what we want. We'll grab this and say no title. And so we can kind of drag it and hold it, let it snap and line up with that. So the last bit is these panel tags, right? So the curtain panels themselves have materials attached to them. Right, so this panel here is a glazed panel. We could switch it to a spandrel panel, and we could make more panel types if we wanted it to be metal panel or a louvered panel or something like that. We can easily do that, and there's going to be other tutorials to show you how to do those things. But basically in here, if we go into tag and we tab over to this and turn off the leader, we can throw these tags on here. These are all glazing panels, and if we wanted to switch maybe this middle chunk to spandrel, we can filter it out, check none, grab just the curtain panels, and then switch these to spandrel, and you can see here they're automatically going to update, so that looks pretty good. So the last step is this curtain wall schedule. And so you can see here we have 3 curtain walls, AA, BB, CC. And so the place we're going to get a hold of those is in the Schedules tab in 240 Curtain Wall Schedule. Alternatively, we could double click on here. One thing to note here is you can start to see in both Legends and Schedules, we're starting to typify how these are organized. So they're organized by which sheet they're going to be on. So the partition notes are on sheet 220. Partition types are on sheet 220, door hardware 230, right? So this is the sheet number. So the curtain wall panel types is on 240. Then if we go down here, the curtain wall schedule and the window schedule, they're both on sheet 240. So if we look at what's kind of happening behind the scenes here, we have this mark. We've got the length and the unconnected height that are reporting out automatically, the manufacturer, the model, description, and the type comments. And so that stuff is all getting scheduled out in here, and then it just gets placed on the sheet, which is sheet A240. The nice thing is that if we wanted to change anything realistically in here, we could change it here. That's going to probably give me an error, and it's going to say, hey, look, you have highlighted walls overlapping, right? So we probably want, if we get that error, we're going to want to go back to the first floor working plan. Take a look at AA, which is right here. Okay, here we go. So these walls are sort of overlapping this curtain wall. So if we do that, we'll start to be able to clean that up. So that's the basics of how to tag, build, and schedule curtain walls.